The age-old launch question. Should your event be free or should it come with a price tag and a little bit of pressure? In this episode of Launch Your Way series, we're tackling the great debate of free versus paid launch events. Maybe you love the idea of reaching more people with a free training, or maybe you're tired of signups ghosting you and a low show-up rate. You're ready to start attracting buyers and not freebie seekers. Either way, we've got you covered. So today we're going to talk about the pros, cons, and real-world examples of both models to help you figure out which one makes the most sense for your offer. Let's dive in.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9-to-5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Hello, and welcome back to the next episode of the Launch Your Way series. If you were just tuning in or catching up, we can send you on back to episode 63, where we talk about how any launch style can work, or maybe you're interested in a challenge style launch, go ahead and check out episode 66. Today is all about paid versus free experiences, and then in the upcoming episodes, we'll also be talking about webinar style launches and some extra launch bonuses like open houses, communities, things like that you can add on to make your launch even more successful. But today, like I said, we are focusing on should your launch event be paid or free? And there are a lot of thoughts and debates around that. So let's start with the case for a free launch event. Okay, so the obvious pro for this is that this is going to have a serious low barrier to entry. You can get more people to join because it's free, and that can increase your audience size, of course, which is great for list growth, visibility, authority building, all things that you want to have before you launch your offer. So free launch events can obviously be really great. It's also a more kind of like low pressure way to test new messaging, content ideas, and engage with your audience because you're not like behind a paywall when you actually get to your launch event. The other obviously major benefit is you don't have to sell something twice, because if you are using a paid event to launch your paid offer, you are then going to have to, of course, come up with a sales page for your paid event to get people in the door there first, and then you'll need to sell them again into your paid offer. So with a free event, of course, you are going to have that much lower barrier to entry. You're going to likely have way more people register because it's free and you don't have to sell twice. But on the other side, so maybe some reasons you've been considering offering a paid launch event instead is because free events can have this sort of feeling of less perceived value. And because people haven't paid for anything, it's, a free event, a freebie, they don't feel like they need to show up. So your show up rate in free events, and we've seen this across the last year or so, we've really seen show up rates, I think, across most industries decrease to, you used to want to get about 20%. Now, if you get 20%, that's very exciting. 20% is still what I would shoot for as the ratio of people who, signed up and actually attend. But it is harder and harder to hit that number. And maybe you're tired, right, of the no-shows and lower engagement on your free trainings. So you start thinking about offering paid instead. The other kind of drawback about offering a free training as opposed to a paid one is, you might be attracting more freebie seekers who are just interested to see what they can get for free and actually have no intention of buying anything that you're going to be selling. And they've already sort of feels like made up their mind on that. So you will also likely see a lower conversion rate on, not always, but likely a lower conversion rate on free events as opposed to paid events. The final thing to kind of think about is if you are doing something like running ads, you are going to be footing the bill for that. You're not doing anything to kind of offset your ad cost or your team cost, because a lot of times when you're kind of selling twice, right, with a paid workshop or a paid boot camp or something like that, you're making a little bit of money, of course, before the launch even begins. So you don't have a lot of return upfront when you're offering a free event. Now, of course, you can offset that with a paid tripwire, for example. So that would be like where they would register for the free event. And then on the backside, they are able to sign up for something extra that's low ticket, but it's great for doing things like offsetting your ad costs. Okay, so let's talk about the case for paid trainings. So some benefits about paid trainings and charging for that launch event is that you are going to likely have a much higher show up rate and a much more engaged audience. I have seen show up rates for paid workshops anywhere from 30-ish% all the way up to pretty close to 70%, which is obviously great because people are going to be more likely to come and listen to you, interact with you, and then buy your next paid offer. So you're qualifying your audience right up front. This is going to be great for higher ticket or more kind of advanced offers because people are basically already kind of like raising their hand and saying that they are willing to pay for your expertise. They're willing to pay to learn from you. So right away, you're going to have a larger pool of people who are more likely to buy from you. And that is going to, again, prove your authority and establish your expertise because these people have already agreed to give you a little bit of money, right? So they already are valuing your expertise right out of the gate. Now, of course, paid events are not all sunshine and roses, of course, because you're probably going to have fewer signups overall, especially if you're dealing with kind of a colder audience. Because it's paid, right? Even if it's low cost, and I'm talking like a $7 or a $9 workshop, you are going to still have fewer signups than if it was totally free. The other, of course, major thing to think about is, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to need really strong messaging and marketing. And it could potentially wear you out a little bit because you're going to have to sell the workshop and then turn around and sell whatever your offer is next. So it's going to be a lot of strong messaging, marketing, a lot of content required. You have 2 cart open periods, which can feel exhausting to some people. So a paid workshop or a paid boot camp is definitely not necessarily the best for all niches. And it can also be kind of tricky because sometimes some people will kind of feel like your workshop topic, like they should be able to expect that for free. So they have a hard time paying with it. So you could also run the risk of pricing yourself out a little bit if the topic that you're deciding to do your launch event on feels like something that they could like maybe get for free somewhere else. So it's also really important to have a really tight and well-defined transformation for whatever it is that your paid launch event is going to be. So when you might want to think about using a paid launch event is if your offer is considerably higher ticket and you really want to pre-qualify those leads and create some kind of like buy-in or a partial yes because they've paid for the paid launch event before they go ahead and you pitch them to your full program. The other thing to really consider is making sure that you feel very confident in delivering a premium, actionable, transformative paid launch event because people are paying for this and they're going to expect a tangible result. Now, the fine line, of course, is giving them a clear outcome-based promise and transformation, tangible deliverables, without giving them so much that they don't need the next level of your offer. So if you can think of like a first step kind of thing that they might need before your larger offer, that might be a good topic for your paid launch event. The other thing to keep in mind is a paid launch event really needs to be, in my opinion, it's my opinion, but a paid launch event really needs to be live, because part of what they are paying for is access to you and expertise from you and real-time coaching feedback, depending on what you're offering and what deliverable you're giving. So access to you is going to be very important, in my opinion, for a paid launch event. Okay, let's look at a case study. And this is kind of in direct contrast, actually, to what I just said about how it's usually better when a paid launch event is selling into a higher ticket offer. One time, I helped a client launch a membership, and we did that with a paid workshop. And this was actually very different because the paid workshop was more expensive than the membership itself, but it worked. It actually ended up working out. So we sold the paid workshop. We sold over 400 tickets, which was over a 5% conversion rate for sales to the workshop. That's great right off the bat, right? Because usually sales pages, remember, are anywhere from 2 to 5%. So we were like on the good side of above average. Sold 434 tickets. That gives us, with the bump that we also included on this paid workshop, the workshop itself generated about $8,000 in revenue. So that was amazing to start with, right? Because we ran ads. So we chose to run something to offset the cost a little bit. Now, of the over 400 tickets, I can't remember off the top of my head what the show up rate was, but it was pretty decent. Like, I do believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was above 40%. And then, of course, these people also had access to the replay because they paid for it. And we did welcome over 130 people into the membership. So when I look at the sales page conversion of people who viewed the sales page to eventually people who joined their membership during that launch time, it was nearly a 10% conversion of the sales page. So really good. But when you also look at the number of tickets we sold to number of sales, that is about a 30% conversion. Not that every single person who joined the membership had also purchased a workshop ticket, but a lot of them did. So that is really, as you can see, going to increase your conversion rate significantly. And they ended up having close to a $15,000 launch by the time it was all said and done, between their $15 workshop and their $7 a month membership. So pretty good. Not a super huge audience here either, definitely sizable. We're talking in the range of 20 to 50,000 people. So overall, pretty pleased. And it worked out quite well, I think, for something that was so low ticket. And we just, decided to try it and give it a whirl, because the workshop was even more expensive than what we were pitching them into later. Okay, so let's wrap it up. If you are newer or wanting to grow your list, your audience, your visibility, and just reach as many people as you possibly can quickly, I would advise you to start with a free launch event. On the other hand, if you are launching something that feels super premium, or you are just really wanting to offset ad costs or costs of your launch event delivery tech, you could maybe consider testing a paid launch event. But whatever you choose, make sure that your launch event is going to lead naturally to your offer, that it is going to solve the right problem for your audience at the right time, and that it will build towards the larger transformation that you're selling with your larger program, membership, or course. If you're thinking about relaunching an offer, I invite you to check out the Launch Reno. It is my group program that takes you through refinement, realignment, and relaunch. The link is in the show notes.
Thanks so much for stopping by to hang out with me today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on a launch strategy or grab a freebie or one of the resources I mentioned, head over to duxburydigital.co/resources. I'll be back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.